3rd.
Yep,
Pretty soon we'll be snowmobiling.
won't be long.
Good evening and welcome to the October 3rd, 2016 meeting of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. Would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up would be the acceptance and/or corrections of the 9/26/16 public and non-public minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of October.
September 26th?
Yep.
Second.
Any discussion? Any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none? I don't have any announcements. So let's just go into Town Administrator's report, I guess.
Okay.
We'll start real quick on that.
You have a meeting this Wednesday, October 5th, 6:30, EDC in room 106.
Yep, got it.
And then next week is the holiday, so we don't meet on Monday, but we will meet on Tuesday at 6:30, simply for the first public hearing on the easement to Goffstown Junior Baseball.
Anybody have an issue with that, any problems? Good.
Okay, consensus folder tonight includes employee status report, police department, title change, a discharge of a lien, map 6, lot 17B, 51. Event permit, Maple Ave Parents and Faculty Get Together. It's a fun run on October 22nd. You also have rights to inter for Antoinette Byers, West Lawn Cemetery, section 1988. 27, and Raquel Slack, West Lawn Cemetery, section 1981, 1991, lot, that is changed to 32, not 30. They changed their mind on which one. And Mitchell and Nita Corrigan, Shirley Hill Cemetery, section 1A, lot 88. You also have the prosecutorial services contract with Francistown, and applications for state bird age, number 162/141, Terrell Hill Road over Blackbrook, number 173 over 133 East Dunbarton Road over Blackbrook, and number 136/106 Henry Bridge Road over the Piscataquag River, and 129/116 Center Street over Harry Brook.
Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the consensus vote, and seconded by Collis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none?
Thank you. And you also have a request from Chief O'Brien to attend the New Hampshire Annual Emergency Services Conference in North Conway. The cost is $525 and it includes conference and hotel, and that's in his budget. And there's a memo at 7C in your packets.
Motion to accept the chief's recommendation to attend the annual New Hampshire Emergency Services Conference in North Conway for the sum of $525.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing. Okay.
That's it.
Karen, is there anybody else coming in? You just you?
Peggy's here as well.
Well, I mean, you and Peggy, nobody else?
I don't think so.
Why don't we just, if you want to go up now, let's just take you now, so you don't have to hang around. In your packets, you all have a copy of the Main Street request. Joining us is Karen Henderson from the Main Street Committee.
Karen Henderson from the Goffstown Main Street Program. Yes, as we have in the past, we are requesting the support of the warrant article for the $20,000 for the Goffstown Main Street Program. As we submitted in our budget, that is about 20% of our annual budget. Operating expenses are roughly what you see there. I know you might have some questions about what we're doing and where the program has been in the last 6 months, so I can just touch base on that if you want, or if you have any questions. So basically, when Peter, our former executive director, gave his notice back in May, the current board at that time kind of said, okay, this is, second, third director in a few years. We need to kind of regroup, step back, figure out what the program is doing. What are we doing for the town? Who are we and what are we representing? So that's sort of what we were trying to do, and just sort of say, we're going to do the events that we had already on the calendar, which was Old Home Day and the Uncommon Art on the Common, and then we would see where things went. Well, as soon as that announcement came out, there was quite a bit of outpouring of support for the program verbally to me and to other members of the organization, and of concern, saying, what's happening, who's going to do the pumpkin regatta, who will light a tree, who will do all of these things, and it became, and with that came a lot of new volunteers as well. So it became quickly obvious to us, the current board, that, okay, there needs to be something here. There needs to be a program to sustain these events, to continue with new events, and continue with the things that the Goffstown Main Street program has stood for and supported. Knowing that I've been on the board for about 13 years, and that's a long time, as you know, serving on boards, that can be a long time. So Peggy did a great job of reaching out to some other people who could be on the board, new board members, some former board members looking to kind of get back into the program, or at least offering some support and mentorship for new board members. We also had a facilitator come in. Scott Gross came in and kind of helped the program, the new board members go through a process and kind of determine where the program was headed, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, where can we go from here. And a lot of it was positive, and a lot of it is just having the new blood, having new people on the board, having new volunteers, and rejuvenating some of the existing programs. So that's kind of where we are now, and would the $20,000 warrant article is pretty critical to the program for hiring a new director, which was definitely one of the things that came up in the SWOT analysis. Was we definitely do need a director, whether it be a part-time or full-time, or what the scope would be may change from what we've had in the past to better serve the program.
Anybody have any questions? Speak now. Seeing none.
So you got pumpkins for the giant pumpkin?
Yeah, we have 10 pumpkins.
Pumpkins.
So that's pretty much maximum that we can have in order to have it run smoothly with getting them in and out of the water. And
I believe our designee is.
Peter.
Oh,
No, I'm
I
out
thought
for
it was you.
Huh?
I'm out of here, it's you. I'm in New York that weekend. So if there's a pumpkin available for the Board of Selectmen,
Yes.
call us, we'll be our representative.
I'll let you know who, I'll put you in touch with
who it
somebody.
will be, yeah. Okay. But yeah, so things are going really good for that. Gotten some different kinds of publicity for the event this year, and so it should be good, as
Thank you.
always.
Anybody,
Thank you.
Everybody good? Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Karen.
Thank you for the good work.
It's close enough to pass. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Committee reports? Conservation Commission?
Yep. So the Conservation Commission met on September 28th. Had a presentation project by Jessica Edmonds. So she's with the Girl Scouts, and Selectman Pierce, I believe, was sponsoring her, if that's the right word. She made some signs for the hiking trails on the Incanute Mountain, brought in some samples, very, very nicely done. How many in total, David, were there? It'll be at least 25.
Oh,
Oh,
Uh,
on
Very nicely
both,
done.
both mountains.
Yeah, very nicely done, so that was nice to see. Heard some requests by the ZBA. One was for Edward Ruck to allow a deck to remain down along Mountain Base Pond. The commission voted to support the work within the setback as long as the stairs that come off the deck come off the side of the deck and not the front of the deck, so as to bring them closer to the water than the edge of the decking. Then there was one from the Pelletiers. It's for a variance for a garage and a breezeway to be built in the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District buffer. The commission voted to grant the variance because the breezeway was going to be between the house and an existing deck and a pool, so it really was just sort of an infill deck.
Then we had a request from Luke Nelson to rebuild a single-family home. This was down off of Mountain Road. Very, very small sliver, pie-shaped piece of property. Hard to imagine you can even get a house on it. But there was no one there to present the project, and the Conservation Commission had a lot of questions, and there was nobody there to answer the questions. So Patty's going to send a note to the owners to have them come in at the next meeting to present their project and answer some questions. Review for a shoreline permit application for the Osbornes on Blue Jay Lane. Commission reviewed, had no issues of concern. Took action on the minutes, the budget, and correspondence. Then we had a couple of plan reviews. One was for a proposed lot line adjustment between two lots on Montalona Road. Conservation Commission had no concerns and supported the approval of lot line adjustment. And then there was a completeness site plan review hearing for proposed storage facilities. This is out on the back road in Tower Lane where the towers are, across from the daycare center. It was a big project, a big storage facility, but nobody was there to present. Again, the commission had a lot of questions, and there's nobody there to answer the questions. So we're going to request the applicant to come in at our next meeting to present the project. And that was it. Adjourned at 8:15.
Anybody got questions, comments?
Just one, I do. Does the Conservation Commission even, do they even notify these people they need to be there, or is somebody else tell them from the town, or when they pull their permits or whatever?
Yeah, usually, when
I
they
just wonder
call in-
if they know, that's all.
Yeah,
If
usually
it's
Patty will
conveyed
tell
to
them, especially on these big projects, somebody needs to be there because we had all these questions, there's nobody in there to answer them. You know, this is a big self-storage project,
Somebody actually,
a lot of units.
just wonder if somebody even act on it, if they do.
And I'm surprised because this firm is before the
That's what I'm wondering,
planning
yeah.
board a lot, it's like, in
They
the
would know.
Conservation Commission, we just don't understand why they didn't show up to present the plan.
Anything else? Nothing? Sue, can you, the transportation program's gonna be us, right? Or you-
Yes. As you know, we're in the pilot program for, with Manchester Transit Authority to provide curb-to-curb traveling for the elderly and disabled in the Goffstown, Manchester, Bedford area, and they can connect with other MTA buses, take them even further. That will sunset on June 30th, 2017. So we need to put a special article on, or a separate article, in order to extend that for another 2 years. However, we're waiting to hear. They usually don't get a decision till sometime in late October, whether MTA continue to get their federal grant so that they could offer to us for a similar price as 2 years ago, which was $15,000 for 2 years.
so
Just
we
under
wanna-
15,000.
We just wanna hold off on that until we hear from them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hear before you conclude your budget, but a special articles deadline is the second Tuesday in January anyway, so we'll hear before then.
So it's always a placeholder?
It goes through, it goes through the process with Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission in terms of regional planning for transportation.
CBA, they got a dollar there for a placeholder?
CBA, yes, the Teamsters, we are in negotiations with the Teamsters, and we just put a dollar placeholder in there for that.
Let's take up the nonprofit request. I'm
Yes.
just going through this because, the Christmas house was scheduled at 9:20, and it's not here, so.
You have backup information on these blue sheets for each of those nonprofits. It's right behind the Main Street ones.
In the past, we have not supported these, well, I shouldn't say supported them, but we have not funded them.
We have not placed them on the ballot.
Right.
The board's position in the back was, that, in the past, has been that private individuals can donate, but the boards didn't feel that taxpayer dollars should be used to support these nonprofits.
Anybody have any comments?
Still feel the same way?
Yeah, same.
So I would say,
Send them a letter thanking them, but,
Next.
okay. But,
but,
okay.
Bring up the new business when the time...
Go ahead, Carlos, once you, if you got some new business you want to
Triggered my memory as we were walking back from the fire station. So I'd like to see what we have for documentation with Eric Fletcher about the old Daggett building and moving it across the street.
Actually, you got it should be in your FYI, a notice from the planning board. It's going to be heard on October 13th.
Yeah, but my concern is, what did we have in writing with an agreement for him? Because as I recall, the way it was portrayed to us was the Daggett building was going to be moved across the street and put on a foundation, not be
Yes.
turned into a two-story warehouse.
Oh, it is going to have a foundation, but they put, until they got the approvals of the planning board, they weren't going to start digging and putting in.
Yeah, but
Yes,
it's
now he's
gonna
making
be
it a two-story.
warehouse,
Oh, really?
yes.
That wasn't my
And that
understanding.
wasn't my understanding at all, because I would have had a concern with a two-story warehouse.
Yeah. Well, the board got a notice as a butter. So,
Well, I just want to see, we
Okay.
must have something in writing. I
We
think
do. We have an
developed something.
agreement.
I'd like to see what that says.
I'll email that to you.
Thank you.
Who'll be attending that planning board meeting, you? Or, no, David does the planning board now.
I do. So if I recall our discussion here, it was, the structure was to be moved and settled at its same elevation to the ground.
That was my understanding, the way it was
I should
portrayed
put
to us.
frost wall, I was gonna have to, right.
Yeah, I
So
understand
you,
it's gonna be on a
you've heard
foundation.
that there'll be a substantial foundation causing it to be higher than sitting on the ground.
Well, I understand it needs to be put on a foundation, but the
Yeah,
plan
it
is for a
says it's a two-story
two-story
building.
structure. It's a little different than putting it on a foundation.
Yeah, that's the first I heard, that it was a two-story structure.
Okay, thank you.
That's what it says.
Well, forward that.
I'll forward to everyone.
Yeah,
Yep.
please.
Thank you.
Anything else? Somebody coming in from Crispin House?
They're supposed to be, yes. Diane McCarthy's supposed to be in.
It's not actually the matrix. Speak on the capital reserve fund for 2 minutes.
Well, she's doing here 2 minutes, so let's wait till, give her the 2 minutes.
Yeah, the capital reserve fund should be quick.
Yeah? Yeah, okay, you can do the capital reserve fund. It's gonna be the same as it's been, so.
Yeah, you just have to decide how you're gonna fund it.
Details.
Out of the,
Good evening. Since 2000, I believe 2008, we've been
Fire
funding,
Chief Rich O'Brien.
Fire Chief Richard Bryan, Goffstown, New Hampshire. Since 2008, we've been funding the capital reserve fund for the purpose of replacing fire apparatus, knowing that the cost of either a pumper or a ladder truck can be extensive, whether it be $500,000 to $1 million. So without a capital reserve fund, communities tend to see spikes in their tax rate just because you're trying to fund it, or you look to alternative funding such as leasing, or you're looking at bonding. But in a community like ours, we've had a history of just buying vehicles as we go. So the capital reserve fund was a viable solution, and we've been funding it since 2008, and we've been successful in using that fund to fund for the tower ladder and for the replacement of a pumper with a pumper tanker. And we're once again, we're close to purchasing another engine slated for next year. We've been contributing anywhere from initially $420,000 to get the fund started, to upwards of $100,000, to what we've settled into was a figure of $225,000 for the past 2 or 3 years. With that rate, we anticipate replacing another engine coming in 2018, I believe, 2019. And with that, we'll have enough in the funds to, again, not stress the tax rate and be able to purchase pretty close to what we need. We also use it as a tool to help us defray the cost, the immediate upfront costs for the big purchase. The big one out there is the replacement of a tower ladder when the day comes, and we're slating that for 2028. And right now, today's money to replace that vehicle today would be $1.5 million. So again, thinking ahead, this fund is perfect to help offset that. So with that, the fire department recommends that, once again, we offer the warrant article for the capital reserve fund for fire apparatus for $225,000.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we just want to keep on going?
Yeah. They're not here, so I would.
Chief, you might as well go ahead and let's do the staffing, your staffing request.
Thank you. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so.
This is the same one we saw before?
Yep.
Huh?
Goes with more information for you at the last.
Want to slide around? I mean,
Two lights, yep, there it is.
Against the right angle of the radio.
Practice makes perfect.
Yep, that's right.
I don't want to do it like Rick did last.
Could you do what Rick did?
Thank you, sir.
Carlos, can you just slide that chair over a little bit? Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Do we have backup on this in our folders?
No,
I can provide copies for you if that's what you'd like. This
We don't
was,
have
this
them
was
yet.
completed today.
Okay.
And numbers, so
So you'll get us copies of this so we can,
I'd be happy to.
yeah.
Okay, thanks again, thank you again for letting me expound a little bit more on the staffing issue that we're having in the fire department and finding a viable solution to our issue. And this all stems from, obviously, not just this past report in 2016 that we completed. Oh, there she is.
That's okay.
Okay. The 2016 report that we completed, and it also stemmed from the I believe it was 2006 report that was done by the local government center that recommended some staffing changes, and that also highlighted in this report. Ultimately, our recommendation was to fund and hire 4 full-time firefighter, advanced EMTs or paramedics to the department in 2017, apply for a grant for the SAFER grant in the fall of 2017, and then ultimately looking to hire additional 4, either under the grant, or if that wasn't successful, hire 4 more full-time firefighter, advanced EMTs or paramedics in July of 2018. And obviously, for the reason, all the report references are below on any of these graphics, so you can double check on these. But we're getting busier, and our population is getting larger. But not only just the age of our population is shown to make us our demand for services grow. So this coming year, 2016, we're looking that our call demands are going to go over 2,400 calls this year. Again, about 65 to 70% of them are EMS related. We've seen this graph before where it breaks down hour to hour, the breakdown between fire and EMS requests. And you see that our peak times are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it wanes off quite a bit, and then ultimately the quietest time is right around that 5 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m. hour. But you show that there's still a demand, whether fire and EMS, throughout the day and night. The issue was, when we took that sampling from the previous slide and then said, okay, we're gonna look at two recent years, and we're gonna determine how well we're doing as far as response times go. And you can see that that high demand zone is from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Maybe start leaning towards 8 p.m. now. And our full-time staffing, in-station full-time staffing is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you see the effect of that, and that our response times are between 4 and 5 minutes and sometimes a little bit better than that, for both EMS and fire responses. Now, when we don't have staffing in station, you see our response time, average response times climbing. And this is the area, this is the areas that we're concerned about. And when the committee saw this, we said, well, we need to do something about this, because when you see your response times double and or almost triple, then you know you've got a problem, because we've recognized through national standards that response time means everything when it comes to fire growth. It means everything when you're responding to medical emergencies. So we know that's something that we need to tackle. So how do we do this? And well, we know our response times are lower during the day when we have in-station staffing, but when we don't, we offer on-call staffing at nights. Now, we only staff one ambulance with part-time people at night, and because of that, you see a response time slightly lower. It's because they're responding from one location in town versus from 2 locations during the day. And because of that, they have longer response times.
Chief?
Okay.
Oh, back, number 18, that's the 6 PM, right?
6 PM hour.
Why is
Yep.
it going up
Because
before
that's
that?
we see an influx of calls, and towards the afternoon, we've become I call it less reliable, is because our staff is typically tied up on calls, and it takes us longer to get there, because we're either coming from the hospital or coming from another incident. We get there quicker, but it's taking us longer because we're at that point where we're doubled up on calls or even tripled up on calls.
So do you have a graph of simultaneous calls?
I can create that done in this program.
Okay.
But simultaneous calls in general, we run about 25%. So one out of every 4 calls, there's another call that's going to occur during that call.
And how many of those are mutual aid that you're covering?
I got a graph. I try to work on that also. In fact, the next call. Good segue. In 2015, we looked at mutual aid activity and by town. And these are all the towns we had sent resources to. And obviously Manchester is the highest, where we gave Manchester the highest. It was during that their heroin epidemic. We were rolling into the city quite a bit because their systems were totally taxed out, and we weren't the only department that was going into the city. We're seeing the trend. This is trending down because they're getting a grasp on their heroin crisis with the safe station system, and we're hoping that that's a good trend that's going to carry on. We're seeing this year approximately 5% of our overall calls are mutual aid calls. And it could be a fire call, it could be an EMS call. But one of the things to know with EMS calls is if we transport, we do get the bill for that service, so we can recoup some of that funds back for going mutual aid. But you can see most other communities, it's a wash. New Boston and Ware, we noticed that there's an increase in EMS calls. But most of the requests are during the day, during our busiest times, because that's when their busiest time is also.
Chief, when you say you bill for mutual aid for the ambulance, I assume it's for
Yeah,
ambulance
for the
services, what happens if the resident of that town does not pay or doesn't have insurance?
We send them to collection.
So the city or the town that we,
The city or
Service
town
doesn't.
is not on the hook. It's one of those discussions that some towns we're going to get together and discuss with the city of Manchester if the trend was worsening with the heroin crisis, but looks like the trend is going down, which is.
because the city fines their private ambulance service when they don't respond, correct?
That's what I had heard, and I've yet to confirm that, but through their contract, I'm not sure whether they recoup any fines for non-responses from their provider.
Do you have a graphic on reciprocating?
Not tonight, but reciprocating is about about a half as much. About 2.5% to 3%. We're calling people to reciprocate. This year again was an anomaly because we had the big fire in Penarville. So our numbers are going to be higher on the reciprocation. But typically, this is a normal year, looking back to some of our activity.
So the blue, that's what we received from mutual aid?
Yes, that's what we received from
In
mutual aid.
2015.
That's 2015, and that's higher this year because of the fire
Right.
jutras. Any questions on that one?
Well, I got a question on our ambulance calls to Manchester. If we're not getting paid for it, does that come out of the ambulance fund, the personnel cost of that? Or is that ambulance fund just to fund the equipment?
The ambulance funds the equipment, the vehicles, the training for the personnel, and for the nighttime staffing, the staffing for that ambulance. The daytime staffing is not factored into that budget. It's never been factored in.
So if the call was during the day, no. If the call's at night,
Well, I don't understand why we wouldn't do that, though.
it wasn't set up that way.
Yeah.
But that's something we can have a discussion about.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Right.
I mean, I think what we did is a revenue offset. I think $9,800 a year is budgeted from the EMS Special Revenue Fund to transfer over to the general fund.
Right.
That's it.
Alan?
Chief, on that given side, we're giving, what time of day is that?
Mostly during the day.
And what time of day? I mean, is it in our spike zone or not in our spike zone?
It's in our spike zone. I mean, this graph says, shows that we're giving a lot to Manchester, New Boston, and Ware, but it is during that 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. range. That's typically when we're going. If we get called mutual aid for a fire, it could be any time of the day.
So mutual aid, you'd say, is not a factor in our slower response time at night?
It's typically a fire call. That's what it's usually a fire call, and we try to get out what we, for example, we had a building fire in mutual aid into Ware, where they asked for an engine and the tower ladder. We were only able to get the engine out immediately with the staffing. And the staffing for the tower was extremely delayed, and it ultimately was canceled because it was so delayed. Again, you're looking at approximately 5% of our overall calls mutual aid, and again, we reciprocate. We do request reciprocation from many communities also. All set?
Any questions? Go ahead, Chief.
So the staffing options, looking back at that graphic where we have got the off-hour, the non-in-station staffed hours, where the spiking of our response time occurs, looking at the subcommittee came up with the recommendation of hiring 4 in 2017, 4 full-time, and then 4 in 2018. Now, obviously, that's option A. That's a report recommendation. But obviously, from our discussion from a couple weeks ago, cost obviously is a factor. And option B is something that was considered by the subcommittee, but wasn't recommended. We'll have some discussions on the pros and cons on how that works out. But that would be using the existing full-time employees and just augment the additional staffing by using part-time employees. And that would cover day and night shifts to achieve some status of readiness in the stations. So let's talk about the current staffing configuration. This is what we have today during our peak hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 6 full-time, and then at night, non-peak, is your 2 part-time personnel funded from the EMS budget that are focused and certified focusing on EMS response only. So that gets 1 ambulance out. Okay, it does not get a fire truck, doesn't get a fire truck out. So staffing option A is you're hiring 4 in 2017, and then you hire additional 4 in 2018. This is assuming that we've gone for the grant, we didn't get the grant, and we've got to pay for everything. So this utilizes the current number of part-time positions. We're still going to maintain the part-time positions that are currently funded by the EMS. Now we're utilizing them as a cross-trained force to help augment staffing. So the wage and related costs are established by current contract language. The wage adjustments reflect 2 promotions to current full-time employees to lieutenant, and all wage and benefits calculations are based upon a 6-month period going from July of 2017 and so forth. So the cost for 2017, and again, these have been adjusted using the new retirement rates that have just come out. And so it's $206,000 roughly for this 6 months to hire 4. Now, it's actually what would be proposed is $165,598 after we do a fire department budget adjustment if that occurs, and I'll go over that detail in a second. So the pros on that is obviously you're increasing your response capability, and that's our goal. And with that, we'll have a consistent level of responder certifications and abilities. There'll be paramedics, ALS-trained folks. They're going to have technical rescue. They're going to be able to operate all of our equipment. They'll be certified level 2 or 3, and they'll be able to function on pretty much 99% of all incidents that are going to get thrown at us. We'll have 24-hour in-station and scene supervision. Right now, we have call lieutenants that supervise after hours, and that's our lifeblood for functionality with our personnel that are working part-time and for scene supervision that occurs after hours. And we talked about the cons. The cons was the cost, and we'll go over that in 2 seconds, comparing the different programs. What would option A look like in 2017? As we transition this in, we'll have 4 full-time during the peak hours during the day, and that goes around the clock, night and during non-peak. The 2 part-time folks are now working the peak hours, and they're going from nighttime to daytime where they're supervised. I believe we should be able to get better compliancy from part-timers that will be willing to work the shifts versus having to work night shifts. So this allows us to have 6 during the day, which we have there today, and we'll start this transition over and having 4 during the non-peak hours. So we'll be able to staff two of the stations for immediate response out of those 2 stations. So for 2018, you're adding, again, 4 more full-time, so again, you're adding 1 more per shift, so that gives us 5 full-time during the day and 5 at non-peak during the night. So again, we're now going from 6 during the peak hours to the desired 6 during the non-peak hours. So that gives us ultimately what the committee recommended, getting the staffing to this should be the foundation of staffing going into 2019. So option B. Option B
Let's
is,
go back to afterwards, finish with the other. You got 2 staffing options for 2018, was 4
We have
more
one.
people. What's the net on that one? That's about $1 million, right?
we'll get to the numbers.
Well, no, let's
I can jump ahead if you want.
Let's get A, and then we can look at B.
Back the bus up a little bit here.
All right.
Go back one more section here. So you're telling us for 6 months you're gonna spend, go back one more click here.
206.
$206.94 for 6 months, right?
No, it's $165,000.
165 after Friday.
That's the net
Okay, all right.
after
But
you
that's
make
6
your
months.
adjustments, yeah.
So you're still at 300 and change for a full year for
No,
4.
it's more than that. Keep
Well, yeah,
going.
I know it's more than that. I'm just right
Yeah.
now.
What I'd like to do is go through the options, and if it's okay, I'll then, you'll be able to see the true comparisons between the options and how much it's gonna cost. And what I did is I broke it down. The reason why I didn't get this done today, because I want to go over the numbers with you, is I wanted to make sure that you have a clear idea how much it's gonna cost in 2017, a full cost in 2018, and then as we roll through in both options, right to 2019. So it's not, there's no assumptions. We actually ran the numbers with personnel and benefits. Now that we have the true idea of what the retirement's going to look like. Okay, so I went over to option A, 2018 is adding that additional personnel. So you have 6 during the day and 6 at night. So let's talk about option B. Again, it wasn't recommended by the subcommittee. We did look at this. This is strictly hiring additional part-time firefighter EMTs, and What this requires is it requires a significant number of additional part-time employees to be added to the two roles. And we're estimating at least 14, just to cover the hours. So you're talking 14 more part-time employees beyond what we already have today, which is roughly 14 to 16 right now. All the wage and benefits calculated over a 6-month period, and reflects 2 promotions to full-time employees to lieutenant. I'll show you why. And the cost for this program for 6 months is $131,061. Again, after the fire department adjustment, it's just over $90,000. This includes the turnout gear and the protective gear that they would have to wear, any uniforms, any physical exams that we have to get the number of all these part-time employees done. So the pros is we get the response capabilities that we're striving for. We get a consistent level of responder certifications and abilities. Again, ALS, and to be able to function with all their equipment that we have to throw our calls. We have 24-hour in-station scene supervision, just like option A. But the cost is better. The cons: the Affordable Care Act work hour limitations. We can only keep the part-time force scheduled no more than averaging 30 hours per week. Otherwise,
Under
we
30,
have
yeah. Otherwise, under 30, or you have to.
under 30, or you have to provide them health benefits. The increased training and certification recommitment, it will be tremendous in order to get everybody up to speed on operating with our equipment, our trucks, our apparatus, and the way we operate here in Goffstown. Employee retention and recruitment issues. We face that today with the current nighttime, part-time program, and we try to overcome it by constantly recruiting the right personnel. We try to retain the good employees that we have, and it's always a challenge, and it's always a struggle to make it work and on a day-to-day basis. Here's some of the required certifications and training that we have and the hours that go along with it, just to give you an idea the magnitude to be a firefighter 1 or a firefighter 2, how many hours the class would be, and then ultimately looking at these are the hours that we wanted to focus on when we were looking at part-time employees. If they're just a firefighter with a basic EMT, they still have to go through almost 400 hours of training, whether it be a driver or operator, their incident management certifications. These are all mandated in order to function here at the Goffstown Fire Department. And then the required annual firefighter training and the required EMS training at a minimum is another 100 hours a year. So you can see this is going to be a daunting task if we're taking on another 14 plus part-time employees. The magnitude of training that we're going to have to do is almost going to be a daily occurrence, where we're going to be providing training and orientation for these employees. This is, again, that's one of the drawbacks to this type of program. So what does option B look like? Well, your full-time firefighters are going to be spread even thinner to cover day and non-peak hours. This ensures to make sure that certain apparatus can roll if it's requested. It makes no sense to have a part-time force that is not certified and has the ability or inability to roll out with a fire truck or ladder truck when it's needed. We just don't get the best bang for that buck. So this is for the best bang of the buck. We're taking the core full-time employees and we're spreading them out day and night. And now we're putting the part-timers on where they're needed during peak hours and non-peak hours. So we're now doubling the part-time force. So now instead of having 2 on per day, you now have them on for four part-timers on per day. And I guess one of the only good thing about having a part-time force, if you have this, is you can truly staff for your peak hours. For example, if your peak hours is anywhere from 8 to 8 p.m., we can manage our part-timers a little bit better so it covers those periods, and it makes perfect sense. That's the good thing about having a part-time force that's willing to do that. So now that this achieves that six per day on the peak hours, and then 4 on the non-peak hours. So that gives you an idea. It just gets kind of complex on who's working when, so you have a day and night crew, and, to keep within the full-time staff of 42 hours a week. I'm just showing this graph that it can be done. You'd have to work with the, we'd have to work with the union to develop a suitable schedule to make it done, but this gives an example that it can be done. All right, here's when we talk about numbers. So here's the cost summary for 2017 only. So it's, option A is 4 full-time, hiring 4 full-time for 6 months, and there's that 206,494. Option B is the 131,061. And then, so now, after we make that cost adjustment, and this is down below, the bottom table shows you where that adjustment comes from. If we do staff the way we're proposing, we are now able to take some of the money that we currently use towards officer coverage and towards overtime coverage for that purpose, and all the roll-ups that go along with that, and reallocate it towards this staffing plan. So in this particular case, for 6 months, it's $40,896, and that's where we get the adjusted numbers for both option A and option B. Any questions on? I know it's a lot of. You get where we're coming from.
I'm trying to understand with the option money. What the option money is just coming from another pool in the fire department, correct?
It's
not
currently in the budget.
in the budget. It's still the money we're spending.
Correct.
But
We're spending for staffing.
You're still spending the 206 up there. You're not really spending. You're not really adjusting anything. You've got the money. You're just going to spend it still.
But to clarify, we're not
cut those
asking
lines.
for
Yeah, I know you're
additional
cutting those
money.
lines, but you're still going to spend that top amount. You're not really.
Yeah.
Correct, but we're not. Again, it would be reallocated in the different budget lines to cover either option.
Yeah, I understand, but it's still the same amount of money. It's not. Okay.
So this is where we talk about the net numbers you were looking for. So for option A, there's the 165,598. Again, this is working on the adjusted numbers, and for the cost increase for staffing for the full 12 months of those employees, we've run these out using the budgetary calculations we do for the budgets that we're looking at tonight. So the full cost for those 4 full-timers is $332,000. Now, if we were to add an additional 4 full-timers from July on in 2018, it would be an additional $199,000, say $200,000. So the total cost for 2018 for increased staffing would be $531,886. Okay, and then once you get the full effect of the second round of 4 full-timers, so you're now of the 8 that you've hired, for 2019, your net number now is 748,609. So that gives you a clear idea what your numbers are going out to 2019. Option B. Option B is your 90,165. That's your part-time, hiring part-time only. So your net increase for 12 months of that coverage is 164,900. Now, I didn't include the total cost is for 2018 is 164,900. I didn't go out to 2019 because I have reservations on whether we could make adding 30 part-timers on our rolls effective. So I don't feel that we would be able to achieve the same as option A when 2019 rolls around, where there's 6 during the peak hours and there's 6 during the non-peak hours, where an option B will just give us the 6 during the peak hours and 4 on the non-peak hours. So I don't believe we're going to be able to get there using this option B system, so that's why I did not include that. Any questions on that? So these are your numbers. Run out. I'll definitely get you this handout.
Good.
We talk about ambulance, the ambulance rates. I wanted to, this is for information only, is our current to-date ambulance payer groups lie down as this. Whenever we have a group of, say 1,000 people that we transport, 30% have private insurance, 54% currently have Medicare, 9% have Medicaid, and 7% have no insurance. So, which is actually, the number has actually gone down. So the Affordable Care Act is starting to kick in, where it was double that, probably 2 years ago,
On the no insurance.
on the no insurance. It doesn't really tell you what kind of insurance they have, whether it's a high deductible or it's a low deductible plan, but it just says they have insurance. So we break down our charges to BLS, to ALS charges, and mileage. And that's set by Medicare. So the first column on the left is your allowable rates, and this is what we gauge ourselves from. We currently charge Medicare allowable rates plus 35%, give or take. So, but when we talk to Comstar, which is a third-party ambulance billing company, I asked them, I says, what is everybody charging? And they said, well, we can't really tell you that because that would be illegal. For price fixing, exactly. So what they could do is they tell us, they were able to get us, because they're the top ambulance billing company in New England, they're able to tell us what the average top 50 Comstar rates were that they serve. And by the looks of it, the rates compared to ours are probably an additional 120 to 150% depending on the charge. I posed the question to the president of that company. He says if for some reason we wanted to increase our rates to help defray the cost of some staffing costs, he says obviously you could do that because Medicare says you can charge what's reasonable, but obviously Medicare patients are capped. But if you set your rates for what you actually need to provide your service, then absolutely it's appropriate. So given the scenario, just to put it in the back of your mind, that we could effectively gain another $200,000 to $225,000 in revenue, knowing our payer groups, by doubling our rates. And even by doubling our rates, it gets us still below average. Just a food for thought. So if you're looking to recoup some of your ongoing costs with staffing, this could be achieved in knowing our payers. This is where we're at.
Well, why couldn't we do that? Why haven't we done that to offset the costs we have now?
I don't know if anybody was on the board at the time. The thought of the board was never to overcharge. They felt that if somebody got a bill for $2,100, it would be a hardship. And we do have a policy for hardship policy for town residents. So if they proved that they couldn't pay, we would just write off the amount. But here we're showing that, well, if you have Medicare, we're only going to get $445 for that same trip, and that's capped. We can't get any more. Now, but if somebody had private insurance, it's that 30% group that we're targeting here to help pay for that increase. You know, if you're looking to increase our rates, so that's why you by doubling our rates, you figured, we're going to be able to double our revenues, and our revenues right now are close to $500,000 a year. We'd say, well, we double, we get another $500,000. Well, it doesn't work that way because, again, knowing that a lion's share of our patients are Medicare and Medicaid, it just doesn't happen. It all lays down on the private insurance folks that we transport.
Only 30% of the people are going to get charged the extra amount.
Correct. Or if we go mutual aid, they're gonna be sent to collection to pay the full amount, no matter what they have. I mean, if they've got Medicare, Medicaid, that's capped. We can't get any more. But it's those folks that don't have insurance. They could still be on the hook for that.
So do we have a proposal for that?
I can provide a proposal if that's where the board wishes to.
Well, I think we ought to get a chance to look at it. I don't know if the board can could take a stance on it then, but it would be nice to be able to take a look at it and see what it does for us.
If someone is on Medicare and has supplemental insurance, would they have any balance to pay?
Typically, like, for example,
Those kind of
what we see a lot of times is with, if you have ARP, or we call it railroad insurance or anything like that, supplemental insurance, they typically pay the remainder of that. Say if they've got billed $2,100 under the new rate, they would pay the difference.
All right, anything else, Chief?
That's it. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
All right.
Whoa.
Sorry, coming.
Oh, here we go, Rick.
Yeah, I'm from
Excuse me
the
now. I had the sweet spot right over here by Lieutenant LeMay.
Sorry, Chief, I lost it.
I don't mind, I just don't want to go blind, that's all. All
Battery. Yeah.
right, Chief, thank you very much. Crispin's house, Diane, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. We had you scheduled that you weren't here, so we slipped him in.
I'm sorry, I thought you had me scheduled for 6:30.
Oh, 6:20.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Sorry.
Probably my fault. Sorry, Diane.
That's okay. There you go. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
I should blame the chief, he dragged it on too long.
All right, so I'm Diane McCarthy. I'm the Executive Director for Crispin's House Coalition for Youth. Thanks for inviting me here tonight to talk to you about placing a warrant article for $20,000 in support of Crispin's House on the upcoming warrant. We were very appreciative that the Board of Selectmen last year voted unanimously to recommend passage of our article. And of course, we were very grateful over the last 4 years, the overwhelming support we received from the voters of Goffstown as they approved this article. As you can see from the document that I passed around, the 20,000 warrant article represents roughly 23% of our projected income for the year. This is a significant amount of support when you consider how it helps us get the other 75 or so percent of our support. Whenever I'm applying for a grant, one of the most important questions that they ask of us is, do you have other support? What they want to know is if we're viable. And right here, this support, this warrant article, and the consistent support from our town is a big part of qualifying for those grants. You can see, of course, that we do spend a lot of time during the course of the year devoted to other fundraising and support. We certainly have our tournaments, our annual appeal, and different forms of fundraisers. So we don't depend on it, but it's critical to us.
Anybody got any questions, Diane? Nope.
Keep
Seeing
up the
none.
good work.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry
We
to
do
keep
work
you
hard.
waiting again.
That's all right, that's all right, thank you. And if anybody does have questions, please just reach out.
We'll give you a holler.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not being rude, but I have to go.
Get out. All righty. Don't have anything, we have anything from Goffstown Village, right? A lot of precincts, just what we,
They don't come to us.
Yeah.
They just go to the Budget Committee.
and we can start our deliberations on the budget. I think
I provided new handouts for
Yep.
this evening. The only adjustments that were made in these, that New Hampshire Retirement System has voted on the retirement rates effective July 1st, 2017. So all the New Hampshire retirement lines were adjusted in this packet that you've been given. Also, the Goffstown Village water rates have increased for next year, but we only made adjustments to 2 lines, so they were the most substantial, rather than going through all of them and adding 100. We made the adjustment to the cemetery water line for $2,100, and to the fire department hydrant line, which is substantial, $14,600. Also, based on what sewer presented last week, we made those changes to the budget and to their revenue. And revenues were also adjusted for Parks and Rec. As you recall, there was, the sports complex was budgeted and with full use of impact fees. Well, you don't need to budget when you're using impact fees. So we took the revenue and the expense out of that budget. As a result of these adjustments, the increase from 2016 in the general fund with the special and separate articles we had, this does not include the staffing article because I didn't have those numbers when I did this, is about $933,530, or an increase of 4.94%. If you add in the additional offsetting revenue for 2017, which equals $594,523, then the balance is an increase of $339,007 to be funded either by taxation or unassigned fund balance. At this time, the board has not designated the use of any unassigned fund balance in the preparation of next year's budget. And tonight begins your deliberations, and you need to conclude by October 24th, so staff has enough time to put whatever adjustments you make into the software program so we can present the budget to the Budget Committee by November 1st.
Anybody ready to move on, or is there need more review? What's your pleasures? Everybody talk at once.
Well, most of them we looked at, it's in pretty safe condition so far, right?
This is the 339,007. Is in lieu of any special articles like.
That includes the articles that we had at the time, which are on the third sheet here.
Capital Reserve Fund?
Let's see, I think the capital reserve fund was in there. Yes, so we had the two, Christmas House, Main Street, and the capital reserve fund in there. And then just placeholders, $1 for transportation and $1 for the CBA. So it only reflects those special articles at this time at those amounts.
And when it comes to CBA, we're only talking about the amount of increase.
Right.
Are there any special articles that we're considering for unassigned fund balance?
That's where we're at now. We're talking about that.
Yeah, but so, I understand unassigned fund balance could go to the general budget, or it can also,
Yeah, you could,
Or
but
to individual ones,
or
yeah.
or the individual articles.
like if you wanted to put it maybe towards the capital reserve or something like that, you could use.
That's what we did last year, the previous year, I believe, is used unassigned fund balance for the capital reserve fund.
So let's tackle the budget. Town hall budget. Town hall budget was a negative 0.45%. Police was up.
Are we on Sue's paper from tonight, Peter? Or?
I'm using the one that you passed
Just
out.
summary, yeah.
Yeah, the general,
This summary one?
yeah.
Okay.
I have no concerns about that
No,
request.
about the police department. It's a $2,280 increase.
That's wicked.
Yeah,
I guess he's all right.
In general,
Business.
I was really impressed with the department head budgets. I think did a good job this year.
Yeah.
So we're trying to toe the line and bring in a budget that only represented some pretty meager increases. And a lot of the increase they had no control over. It's increases that are required by law. in general, I was very impressed with the budgets we received.
There was only one thing I had highlighted so far, and I'll be right, I think I brought it up right when, during the presentation, was the furniture and stuff for the fire department on the new addition. I thought that should have been included in that bond issue. I didn't think it should have been included in the budget. Because what that does in the future, it inflates the
Inflates that,
budget
that's
and
right.
it increases the default budget. So I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that point. I mean, it seemed to me you're gonna budget for a new fire station, you ought to budget for furniture,
Budget.
not everything that's gonna go inside the four walls.
Right. That was my only thing that I had that really stood out at all, was that.
Are you saying that's not being done?
No, it was not. He included it in his budget. He put it, I think it was $19,000. I can look out for you.
Yeah, the reason why I added this, because when the board wanted me to pave the existing skateboard park, when it's transitioning to the parking lot, it was not part of the initial scope and pricing of the project. So in order to accommodate for that, we felt that we needed to go over that budget to make that happen. So ultimately, we may not need it, but looking at the budget numbers right now, the added pavement that we're required to pave that area, as per your wishes, we thought that was needed. But we're gonna have to take the money that was allotted for the furnishings and put towards pavement.
I understand, Chief, and I appreciate that, but just let me run through some numbers for you. The town hall was down $11,000. The police department was only up $2,200. DPW was down $112,000. Parks and Rec was up $15,000. Library was up $19,000, and our debt service is down. You're up $129,000 at 5% increase, the largest increase of any of our departments. So, I mean,
And most of them are, it was beyond our control. One's a collective bargaining agreement, the other one has to do a lot with the retirement, state retirement mandates, and now he handed a very large bill.
Alan, do you have something?
If that be the case, why is aren't the police and fire, police and everybody else involved in that same budgeting problem or not?
No. For water?
No, for budgeting, he's talking about mandated, but not the police and,
Police are, yes, the retirement applies to everyone.
okay, so then how's that way?
Police is at one level, fire's at another level. We don't all pay the 31%, Alan. Everybody gets a different piece of the pie. Chief, what's the police at, just so we can compare numbers?
Be close to 29, or maybe just a bit over 29, I think, is what the new estimate is.
And we're, fire's at 31 and some change.
Well, that's only 2%, that's, right? I mean, that's not a lot.
Yeah, the,
2% of $100,000 isn't in the same jing-jing.
fire's at 31.89, and police is at 29.43.
2%, give or take, one way or the other.
Yeah, they both went up 2%. But the non-group twos didn't go up that much. Theirs went up very little. It was 11.17, it went up to 11.38. So all departments didn't feel it equally on the retirement.
Can we just, I'm going to ask a couple of questions to refresh my memory.
Which budget?
First, fire department, I'm fire department, page 11, 28.
1128.
Okay. The furniture and fixtures was budgeted at $12,000. Last year it was $2,050.
What line up, Peter?
That would be third one from the bottom. Furniture.
Okay, I got it right here, yeah.
48440.
440.
And then I'm also going to go to the next page and look at, I just need to refresh my memory on 53475.
Facility
I think that
repairs?
was
I think that was another station, right, Chief?
that was movement of the generator to Terrell Hill, wasn't it?
Right,
There's
$44,000.
three main items there that caused that increase. One was approximately $7,500 to relocate and hook up the generator that's currently at Church Street,
Yep.
going to Terrell Hill. The next one was adding a washer extractor in a drying cabinet for station 19. And let me just make sure I get the numbers straight on this one. And that was for the washer drying cabinet from Astro, and that was $16,000. And then the natural gas conversion for the Mass Road station for $13,000. That's your lion's share of your increases.
David?
What was the delta for moving the generator and having it installed?
7,500.
$7,500.
What would be the impact if that project was delayed 1 year? What's at risk?
We would have failure of that generator out there. It's been Band-Aid over a few times already.
The existing one
The
at
existing one. yeah.
Terrio.
Yeah, that's one of the oldest generators we have still in operation. And it's at the end of its life.
Peter?
Alan, go ahead.
I hear something mentioned about a washer and dryer. I thought we had gotten that with part of a grant. Was that not true?
That was denied. Grant was not awarded.
Oh.
But we are putting one in the new station. That
is
is part of the new station program. Carlos, you have a question?
No.
If I were to defer anything, I would recommend that the washer dry cabinet for that. Because I could still try to explore grants for that.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna recommend we take 10,000 out of that furniture line, furniture and fixtures, and leave it at 2,000 that it was at last year.
2,050?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the 16,000, that will defer that until, because we're gonna have a washer and dryer at Church Street, we can, if
Bring it there.
things get bad, you can always take them there.
What line was that, Peter?
That's line 53,475, facilities, repairs.
You digging on that one, Peter?
63 or 53, Peter?
53.
Oh, 50, there we go, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you recommend there?
I'm just taking out the washer dryer, the amount of the washer dryer.
What was that? Plus we had-
16,000.
Approximately 16,000, right?
16,000.
Yeah.
Plus we had to move the generator. If we don't move the generator, it's another
Well, no, we
75.
gotta move the generator. I mean, we're gonna take it out anyway. You don't wanna have a generator sitting around not hooked up or anything.
Right,
That's just,
Especially when you got one that's
Yeah.
dying.
so I would recommend leaving that in there, the 7,500 for the generator. It's, but cutting that fixture line, furniture and fixture, back down to the 2050. I mean, he's only spent $83 year to date on it, but through 8/31, so he needs to buy some stuff this year.
Yeah, I've been waiting off, hoping that nothing big happens, so we need some money in the budget, so the items, we have to replace the training chairs in the training center, so.
That's my recommendation. Do you want a motion on it? I make a
You need a
motion that we
motion.
reduce that line back down to $2,050,
That's the furniture line.
furniture line, and then reduce the 44,000 by $16,000.
But, okay, I'm still trying to remember here.
We're trying to figure out.
I'm just.
That's a motion.
I know, I'm just. It's not too bad.
Need a second. If I don't have a second, it's gonna fail.
I'll second it. I was just looking at my number.
Fat fingers, you can't use that calculator.
That's it. Full numbers.
Any
Did
discussion
you
on that?
second it?
That-
Did you second?
Yes, I did.
You get a second? Okay.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Right here, Peter.
Mark's gonna abstain. Anybody else got anything else? Not a lot, just a little.
I think everybody else had come in and, numbers are wrong, but what, Garbage for anybody.
I don't find anything else.
Motion to proceed, Carl?
Yeah, motion to proceed with that one adjust, with those two adjustments.
Second.
Until something else comes up, so.
Yep.
Proceed with whatever number the final budget
Yeah.
comes after those
Yeah.
two cuts.
Right, yes.
Okay, do you want to make any decisions on use of fund balance?
I would be in favor of using the fund balance for the capital reserve fund again.
I'll second that one.
On the fire department.
How much?
225,000,
We've got quite a bit in the reserve anyway.
Not last year's number?
same thing.
Same thing. Same number.
Just continue it,
Yep.
so we don't get nailed with a big one someday.
Yep, yep.
Any
that
discussion now? I have a
motion?
motion that was seconded by Mark.
We still have more time to look at that later if we want to make any
Sure.
changes.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Seeing none.
So who made the motion?
Call us again.
Call, no,
Peter did, I seconded
Yeah.
it.
That's what I thought, okay. Just want to make sure I had it right.
I'm confused.
Where'd your mouth go?
Anything else? Well, we'll continue on with that for now.
Okay,
Any discussions or anything else, let me know.
Public?
Yeah, but we're still gonna have a special article for the fire department
staffing?
staffing, right? That's gonna be a special article?
Yes, it's not in here yet, but I don't know which option you want to go with, or if you want to go with one. So I think that requires a vote for the board if they're considering a special article for fire department staffing, additional staffing, because that would have to go forward to the budget committee.
When is that required? November 1st?
You have time, because I would like all decisions made October 24th, provided you have all the information to make those decisions.
I would prefer to make that decision at our next full meeting.
Yeah, the
Next
chief
full
was going to get us some additional information
Right.
anyways.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. Sounds good to me. Need a motion?
Motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2A, compensation and E, legal.
Second.
Aye.
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 That'll conclude tonight's public portion of the October 3rd, 2016 Board of Selectmen meeting. We're going into non-public and no longer conducting any other business.
Steve Randall, we'll be back to the office.